The flagship of the VOR loomed like a shadow across the empty space, its entire surface brimming with armaments forged over centuries of conquest. Inside the command deck, a low hum of power filled the air. Captain Dross stood still, his strength held in check. His eyes, keen with the instinct to hunt, observed the screen showing the latest human wreckage. Vessels drifted pitifully, as if lost in deep space, oblivious, weak. He growled low in his throat, then sneered. This hardly qualified. As a hunt, his officers laughed, confidence oozing from them. With countless triumphs behind them, the VOR were, unquestionably, the galaxy's top predators, crushing entire species beneath their iron heel. Humanity would be no different. Just another inferior race, meant to be destroyed, but something. Indras hesitated, his gut twisted. He'd learned to trust that feeling. Still, he rejected the emotion with a flick of his tail. No one had truly challenged the VOR. Yet on board the human command vessel, Commander Harris coolly examined the tactical display, distancing himself from the chaos he was about to unleash. He recognized the stakes, not just the battle, but the perception of his people. All ships are ready. Sir, came a calm voice. Harris nodded, eyes narrowing. They've taken the bait. Lieutenant Carson stood nearby, a glimmer of resolve in his gaze. Unlike the VOR, humans didn't rely on brute force alone. They fought with strategy, with innovation, with audacity. Harris gave a slight, knowing nod. They think they're the hunters. Good, let's show them they're wrong. Back on the VOR flagship, tension began to spread. The human ships were aligned, too perfectly. Not the panicked scramble of prey, but the poised calm of predators. Dross's pride screamed a warning. His instincts flared. He barked a command, brushing off caution. Advance! The fleet surged forward, weapons primed to rip through the human line. But what looked like scattered debris among the human ships was actually camouflage, hidden stealth units behind asteroid fields. Drones activated, scrambling VOR targeting systems. Confusion spread like a virus. The Predator fleet faltered. Suddenly, the instruments flickered. Systems failed. DRS snarled, slamming a clawed fist into the console. Panic edged into his voice, a tone his crew had never heard before. Humans weren't begging. They weren't running, they were striking, with calculated energy. With missiles that tore through VOR hulls like knives through paper. Precision beams found weak points like guided lightning. They've set a trap. Someone yelled, human ships moved in eerie coordination. Boxing in the VOR, the hunters had become the hunted. For the first time in his long, bloody career, Dross felt it. Fear from his command center. Harris watched the chaos unfold. Target their command ship, he said coldly. No arrogance. This is war. Let's end it clean. The VOR flagship shuddered. DRAS howled as a barrage struck. Too late, the humans hadn't run. They had fought and won. The trap closed. Explosives tore through VOR lines. Dross realized the horrifying truth. Humans weren't prey. They were predators, and they had just claimed their first apex kill. As the VOR flagship broke apart, Dross's last thoughts clung to that bitter realization. They had underestimated humanity. Darkness took him. Debris from the broken VOR fleet drifted silently in space. Like dust after a funeral pyre, Harris exhaled slowly. Bring our people home, he said quietly, part relief, part sorrow. This, was a victory, yes, but only the beginning. The galaxy had just witnessed the rise of a new kind of hunter, fearless, unrelenting, human. The engines of the surviving fleet buzzed gently, the only sound in space as they began reconstruction. Among the scorched remains of once invincible ships, only the flickering fires of the ambush remained. The VOR had believed themselves untouchable. They were wrong. The few surviving VOR officers exchanged glances. Unease gripped them, a foreign, terrible feeling. This wasn't supposed to happen. Prey didn't fight back. Prey didn't win. Dross snarled at the damage report. He screamed, but no order could fix this. Report! A voice finally answered, hesitant, shaken. Captain, our targeting systems are down. Communications are blocked. Over half our fleet is... Dross slammed his clawed fist into the console. How are these creatures doing this? For generations, the VOR had been supreme. But now they were being studied, outmaneuvered, by a species they deemed irrelevant. Meanwhile, Harris stood steady aboard the human command ship. The trap had been perfect, but the battle wasn't. Over the VOR were regrouping. Lieutenant Carson stared at the blinking red lights of enemy ships. They're reforming their lines. Should we push, sir? Harris shook his head. Not yet. Cornered beasts are the most dangerous. He paused. Let them think they've recovered. Then we strike again. Back on the VOR flagship, silence choked the deck. Fear rippled beneath. The surface, they were used to being the terror, now they were experiencing it, but Dross would not admit defeat. He was born a predator. And predators don't run, he barked again, ready all remaining weapons. His voice wavered, but his crew needed confidence. Even if it was a lie, the VOR fleet launched a desperate counterattack. A wave of rail gunfire and plasma bursts, space lit up like a storm, but human vessels moved like ghosts. Shields. Flaring engines dancing, countermeasures singing. Phase 2 had begun. Covert strike groups flanked the enemy, disabling key VOR systems with surgical precision. Their strength became their downfall, their pride. Their prison, Dross watched his fleet crumble. Each tactic answered. Each move anticipated. He whispered, barely audible. How is this one officer doing this? No one answered. Final phase. Harris gave the order, focus fire on their command ship. The fleet converged. One by one, human weapons tore into Dross's last defenses. With a defiant roar, Dross stood. But he knew. It was over. The flagship erupted. The lights dimmed. Dross's last sight, the shape of human ships burning across the void, etched itself into memory. A bitter truth echoed. The hunters had become the hunted. Harris stood on the bridge. The silence that followed was not peace. Tell the fleet to reassemble, he said. Prepare for extraction. Lieutenant Carson stepped forward, pale. Sir? We just caught a signal, not from the VOR. Harris frowned. Show me. A wave of data scrolled across the screen. An unidentified battle group, larger than the VOR, moving fast. The bridge crew exchanged glances. The VOR had been the apex, but this was something else entirely. Harris clenched his teeth, and the galaxy was reacting to the sudden rise of humanity. Moreover, they weren't just sending soldiers. They were sending hunters, sound general quarters. For exterminators, Harris spoke in a calm yet loaded tone. The ship's lights shifted, urgently, to crimson. Resounding alarms echoed. He could feel the energy coursing through every corridor. The weight of authority bore down on his shoulders. There was no space for pause. Send. Out recon drones, Harris ordered, pacing in time with the tactical display. Get me a look at that fleet. The channel was accessible to all ships. Moments later, the enemy fleet appeared on-screen, fully prepared, already in formation. Waiting for whatever the humans would do next, humanity had previously demonstrated their mettle to the Vorax. But this was different. The most dangerous threat is always the unknown. Sir, Carson reported, his voice low, something's coming. Harris inhaled deeply before speaking. This is Commander Harris, to all ships. Something greater. Is incoming bigger than anything we've just faced? But we're not giving up. We've already shown this galaxy that humans are not prey, and we're about to remind them again. So get ready for engagement. Trust your training, trust your gut. And remember, this is our moment. As the signal cut, Harris stared back at the tactical screen. The recon drones had completed their painting, and the image was bleak. The incoming fleet wasn't singular. It was a coalition, a collaboration of various races and rival powers, all united under one shared goal, annihilation. It appears they formed under pressure. Carson said tightly, a partnership between rivals and predators, sir. They're afraid, Harris whispered. Afraid of what? Carson asked, his tone confused, but Harris only grinned, a slow, unexpected smile creeping across his lips. They fear us, Carson, and that's why we'll beat them. The fleet was now within visual range. The sheer number of ships was staggering, a display of power that would have crushed any traditional force. But humanity wasn't traditional. They were the unpredictable element, the species that refused to play by the galaxy's rules. Harris's eyes hardened. We'll cut through them. Attack pattern Omega. Hit their command ships first, throw them into chaos. We fight fiercely, we fight smart. The bridge crew sprang into action. Hands flew across controls. The human fleet shifted, preparing for a bold move, one that would lead to either crushing victory or total destruction. The fleets closed in. Anticipation crackled in the air. Harris felt his heart pound. But he knew this moment was meant for humanity, born for impossibility. Refusing surrender, the enemy fleet is charging weapons. Carson shouted, "Hold fire!" Harris snapped, voice icy. "Not until I give the order." The silence outside was absolute. Inside, the weight of 1,000 decisions teetered on the edge of a knife, and then, calmly, without hesitation, Harris gave the command, "Engage." The space between fleets exploded. Fury, light, fire. Ships scattered, trading lethal volleys. But at the center of it all, the spark of human defiance burned the brightest. Amidst the shadows, the enemy lines began to fracture. The fear-based coalition was breaking under the relentless assault, but the battle was far from over. In the storm's eye, aliens and humans clashed, and from the bridge, Harris's voice broke through the chaos. "They'll learn from the line we hold that we never give up. Not now, not ever." The conflict raged on, victory still uncertain, but one truth was clear: the galaxy would never see humanity the same again. The bridge shook as an explosion rocked the hull. Commander Harris gripped the console, his knuckles white, stars blurred. Outside, as the fleets